Good evening. We are on to another edition of Export Costing and Pricing, brought to you by 3Team Best Trade Academy. This is Facebook Live. My name is Dele Ayemibo, and you're welcome to the Import-Export platform. This evening, we'll continue our discussion on export business costing and pricing, and we're looking at part 9. Christopher, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. We've discussed a couple of things. We've discussed costing, the cost element. We've discussed Incoterm and how it affects pricing. We've discussed some of the principles that should guide individual going into export as they price their product. This evening we'll be going further in pricing, and today we'll be looking at basic principle of pricing in export business. The basic principle of pricing in export business. Some of the principles, or basic principles rather, to be kept in mind when considering exporting include the following, and these are very important. More like pricing objective and strategy, very important. Number one, the prices must be at least cover the cost. It must at least cover the cost. If the costs are not fully covered, including the time spent, most likely a loss will occur. What you don't want to do or see happen is to begin to have losses consistently. We know about the bell curve that happens when you're starting a new venture, but you want to ensure that curve is not very deep. So at the end of the day, it doesn't eat too much into capital and the business can still continue. And that's the reason why we spend a lot of time discussing all the cost elements and also discussing how Incoterm affects those elements. How Incoterm affects cost in general. Because if you are going to do proper analysis, you need to have an idea of like a dashboard of your cost. You need to have an idea of all the costs you're going to incur on the project, because having an idea of the cost you're going to incur on the project puts you already on the path to being profitable. So you don't get along the line and discover, oh, you mean I'm going to incur this cost? I'm going to incur this cost? I never knew about the fact I'm going to incur this cost. And because you didn't know about those costs, then of course, eventually, you incur losses. The best way to lower price is to lower cost. Don't try to lower price arbitrarily as you enter into the market. Check. Not every product will be good for a particular market. Not every product will be good for a particular market. Because not every product will be good for a particular market, then you now have to find your own market. So at the end of the day, you don't want to force yourself into a particular market even though your product is not good enough for that market. Not good enough for that market in the sense that the product you are trying to showcase in that market, the price you're going to sell it, the people there cannot afford it. You don't then lower your price because you want to maintain that market. If you must lower that price, then consider a better way, which is to lower your cost. And that's why we spend a lot of time on those cost elements, how you can lower cost on transport, how you can lower cost on transport, on the product itself, on procurement, so that you can significantly reduce the cost you are incurring for that project. Of course, that eventually help you to be able to make reasonable profit. As price equals cost plus profit margin, it's obviously better to reduce the cost element than the profit element. For any reason, it becomes necessary. For any reason, it becomes necessary to reduce your price. So it becomes necessary to reduce your price, work towards reducing your cost. Meaning you must understand the cost element and ask yourself, what do you need to do to reduce some of these cost elements? So at the end of the day, you can make the business profitable. Your prices also must reflect the environment in which you are operating. Remember, we're talking about the basic principle of export pricing. The pricing must be within the range, must reflect the environment in which it is operating. Look at the competitors. What are the competitors offering? You can't price yourself out of the market. And remember when we started, I talked about the fact that your competitors are not just people selling the same product, but people selling product that customers will be willing to buy as against yours. People selling product that customers will be willing to buy as against yours. Meaning, any product that is a substitute for yours. Not necessarily similar product. And I gave an example that if you are selling plantain chips, that is snack. People selling kuli kuli are competing with you for plantain chips. People selling peanut chips, as long as it's packaged in that small form that people can just eat on the go, they're competing with you. So you are ensuring that you're not pricing yourself out of the reach of the competitor. Remember, the competitor are still there, and if your price is outside their range, of course, people are going to go for other products. And I gave you an example that when we started exporting pap to the UK, we found out that the competitor lowered their prices as if they had a meeting. And they are Nigerians. And of course, we had to lower ours also, even though ours was not as low as theirs, because our packaging of our quality of our packaging rather was a lot better than theirs. So our price was almost as lower as theirs, but the fact remained that we had to also respond. Any price, whether the company's or its competitor, must reflect the dynamics of cost, demand, market changes, competitor, product utilization, product life cycle, maintenance, and end usage. Your price must reflect the dynamics of the cost, must reflect the dynamics of the demand, must reflect the dynamics of the changes in the market, must reflect the dynamics of competition, must reflect the dynamics of competition, must reflect the dynamics of product utilization, and also reflect the dynamics of the life cycle. The product life cycle. Some products stay long before you need to reinvent them. But some products, you need to do it within a short time. You need to understand the nature of your product and be able to know. Because you begin to know if you watch the trend of your sales vis-a-vis the timeline. That will give you an insight into when you are supposed to begin to do a reinvention of your product. Because the life cycle of your product is now declining. And you need to begin to reinvent that product. So your pricing must reflect the environment in which you are operating. Your pricing must reflect the environment in which you are operating. You can't price yourself out of the environment. And that's why you must keep in touch with the environment. In fact, for those that are doing indirect export, indirect export means your good is being given to someone here in Nigeria, and those people aggregate it and ship it, either as an agent, either as a distributor, whoever it is. But the fact that you're not in touch directly with the market, you need to find a way to investigate to know what's going on in the market. If you don't have a rep in the market giving you exactly what's going on, what we try to do is to have a rep at the destination market. Because what that does for us is makes it a lot easier for us to be able to ensure we keep tab with the market and know exactly what's going on in the market, so that we don't go price ourselves out of the market and know exactly what the market reality are. Nwanko Nkechukwu, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Naemeka Okere, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Caleb Afwakwe, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Price also must be within the range of what consumers are prepared to pay. Now, what you're seeing is that, look, you must do your market research to have an idea of how your product is in the market. You must do that research. That research is extremely important. That research is extremely necessary. If you don't do that research and you don't allow this principle to guide your pricing, you just go out that you don't have a market. Nobody's willing to buy your product. Your price must be within the range of what the consumer are willing to pay. What the consumer are willing to pay. We've not been able to sell the pap, like I've said repeatedly on this program, in West Africa because the consumer will not be able to pay for it. Because we ship it by air to Europe, the standard of living in Europe is high, the purchasing power is high, the per capita income is high, they are actually high income countries, they can afford to pay for this pap. This pap in Nigeria is sold for about 600 naira. The people in Europe are buying it for about 4 pounds. 4 pounds. 4 pounds. That means a lot. That's like times 4 of the cost here in Nigeria. I can't do that in Ghana. I can't do that in Togo. I can't do that in Benin. I can't do that in Cote d'Ivoire. Because we're probably at par, if not better, than some of them. Meaning, if I'm going to sell it there, instead I'm selling at the price here, if I thought slightly higher because it's an imported product. But the idea is this. The idea is this. You can't price yourself out of the range of the price that is obtainable within your market. It's very unreasonable. No matter what the quality of your own product is, if you are just coming in, you must adjust your price. And remember, you don't have to adjust your price to be at a loss, rather reduce your cost. If that's your rock bottom cost, maybe that's not a market you want to play in. Pricing should be set at a level that will ensure product can be sold, and not just because you want to beat a competitor. It is easy to start delving into all the sophisticated analysis and research around about optimum pricing levels. But at the end of the day, it must be remembered that prices need to be set as high as possible to maximize profit, but you still ensure that at that price you want to maximize profit, you can still sell it. People are willing to buy. At that price you want to sell it, you can still be profitable because people are willing to buy. You are not pricing yourself out of the reach of what the market is willing to buy. As much as possible. It is all very well having the best product in the world, but if the price is more than customers are prepared to pay for it, then it is not going to sell. On the other hand, there is absolutely no reason to charge less than the customer are prepared to pay either. You need to do a research to ensure that you are not charging below what the customer is willing to pay, and you are not charging above what the customer is willing to pay. How do you know this? Check your competitors. What is your competitor doing? Like I said, the competitor is not necessarily people doing the same product, but product that can serve as a substitute for your product in the market. Prices should be set at a level that ensure that product can be sold, like I said, and not just to beat competition. Also, product prices should be set in a way that represent a fair return for the company's time, for the effort you are putting, for the risk you are taking, and for the investment. And that's very important. Because, in the long run, if you are setting prices at a level that the company cannot survive with, that means it's just a matter of time. The company will go into extinction. So when setting export prices, all operating and legal costs need to be taken into account. Some costing factors relating to exports are sometimes forgotten and not taken into account when building up the cost and setting the prices by the company. These cost factors, among others, may include the following. Number one, the cost of in-house warehousing and storage. Now, sometimes when people are setting prices, they look at price they pay money for, the cost if you look at the cost we did before, most of them are costs out of pocket, as in things that you pay money for, that you incur direct costs on. But there are other costs you are incurring that you are not factoring in. For example, you have a warehouse. You have a warehouse, and you don't factor that in your cost. You could have taken that good to a warehouse outside, and you'll have paid for it. Why is that not factored in as a cost? It's a cost. Because you are going to maintain the warehouse. You're going to pay salary in the warehouse. You're going to incur some costs in that warehouse. So that warehouse, even though it's an in-house warehouse, in-house storage facility, that cost should be factored in. It's an in-house warehouse, it's an in-house storage facility. However, that cost needs to be factored in. Why? If you do not factor in that cost, the implication of that is you're already incurring more cost than you can imagine. And the profit you think you are making, you are really not making that profit. Because you're not factoring a lot of other indirect costs you are incurring. The cost of export formalities and documentation. In Nigeria, for example, you are going to transport yourself to the bank to drop the physical document. You are going to transport yourself to the port. You are going to print paper in your office. Print paper. But that's not factored in because it's just paper. You are printing paper in the office. To be able to do those documentation, you are using the internet in the office. You are downloading documents online. You are responding to mail. These are all costs, indirect costs, that must be factored in. So at the end of the day, your costing is all encompassing. Ronke Odejobi, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Ade Shenwade, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. We are still discussing our export costing and pricing. Export costing and pricing. And today, what we are discussing under export costing and pricing actually is about the principle of pricing in export business. And by the way, we are on part 9. Part 9. Now, we've looked at some of the principles, and we're now talking about some other costs that you are not factoring in, that people are not factoring in because maybe it doesn't appear significant, or because they have what it takes to do it. Another one is cost of transportation. Sometimes you have a truck. You are not hiring a truck. You are using your own truck. But that truck, there's a driver being paid for it. That truck, there is a fuel that truck is using. And with the wear and tear of the truck. So you should be charging yourself the cost of that truck moving into the port. And that cost should be factored in your pricing. That cost should be factored in your pricing. If you don't factor in that cost, what you're doing is that you are incurring additional cost, but you are not putting it as part of the cost you are incurring. And the implication of that is that at the end of the day, you might think you are very profitable, but you are not profitable. Because at the end of the day, you are still going to be using part of your profit to service that truck. Whereas you will have factored that into the cost ab initio. The cost of clearance document at port of loading and discharge. Clearance, export clearance. These were part of the cost I mentioned. These are hard costs. If for example, you have an in-house clearing agent, you might not consider this. Even though you are paying that clearing agent, you are paying him for the service, you are paying him salary. But that's not being considered. But cost of duties, tariff, and taxes in the country of destination. Cost of duties, tax, and tariff. If you are exporting from Nigeria, you don't pay duties. But in some countries, you actually pay duties. And that should also be factored in. Cost of transportation to the warehouse in the country of destination. Cost of distributor agent fee in the specific market. If you have an agent in that market, you are going to pay that agent commission. That has to be factored in. If you are going to clear the good at the destination and deliver it to a place at destination, that has to be factored in. All these incidental costs must be factored in. So that at the end of the day, you are able to properly price this product. So at the end of the day, you are able to, the profit you are declaring is real profit. You have not incurred additional cost that you never even added in your costing at the end of the day. So the cost of any additional logistics you are incurring at destination, all these to be factored in. Now, if you have to do advertisement in the country of destination, that also have to be factored in. Naemeka is saying, please, I sent you a private message today, but you have not responded. I saw only the one from the other guy, the guy from the US, and I responded. Naemeka, please resend that message. Send the message, please. Is it a private message on Facebook or on WhatsApp? Please resend the message and let me know when that is done, and I will try to respond to you. So sorry about that. So I was talking about the cost of advertisement. The cost of advertisement. So if you are incurring cost of advertisement in the country of destination, insert it. What I'm going to say in essence is this. Ensure that every direct and indirect cost you are incurring in the export transaction is factored in your costing. I've given you some hardcore costs, which we did between, I think it was throughout yesterday, and over the weekend. But yesterday and this morning, we talked about Incoterm, which was also part of the cost. What I'm discussing today now is the principle around that pricing and other factors you must put in. So at the end of the day, you ensure that all other costs you are incurring along the line are factored in, besides the major cost that I have talked about. These other costs might not look significant, but if you do export regularly, it might then become a significant cost that you'll be incurring in your export transaction. So you have the direct cost. These are costs that are directly related to the production of product and raw materials. Then you have the overhead of variable cost. These are costs not directly related to the production, and it includes the taxes, the rent, the travels, the logistic cost, the insurance, the permit that you have to take. All these are part of the cost. Then you have the labor cost, the time, the wages and salary being paid to the employee and staff. Once the total costs have been ascertained, then a profit can be added. So you ensure that at the end of the day, you capture all the costs, both direct and indirect costs. Indirect costs like the overhead and the labor. All that are captured in your pricing of the transaction. The easiest way to increase profit is to raise prices. However, export prices cannot just be raised indiscriminately, and it will be necessary to look for ways to manipulate niche pricing where appropriate. This means looking for a specific area of business where there are some latitude to increase prices. The best way to do this is to identify those export market areas where the perceived value of your product on offer is higher than the price currently being charged. And then you can leverage on that perceived value and then increase the price. But like I said, in increasing your price, you need to be very careful not to price yourself away from the market, from the competition. Charge a price that can be affordable to the consumer, not too high for them to bear and not too low below what they are willing and ready to pay. Thank you very much for listening to us again today. My name remains Dele Ayimibo, and this is Import Export Platform Facebook Live from 3T Import Trade Academy. We'll continue tomorrow again as we discuss export business pricing and costing part 10. Have a good evening and bye for now.